And right now, you have to scroll down pretty far to find Tarkov down here with 10,000 people watching it. So that's
huge.
Naz, you are now. Whenever we do something like this, I do my best to ask the most basic questions possible. Right? We did this with Razor last week. We're going to do it with you now. So for those who don't know, give everybody a rundown of what Escape from Tarkov is.
Yeah, so Escape from Tarkov is an extraction shooter that came out in about 2017 in beta, and it is still to this day in beta.
Yeah, it's one of the original ones. It was, I think, Tarkov and Hunt Showdown went into pre-release around the same time.
Yeah, 2017, July-ish.
17, 18, yeah, like right around that time.
Yeah, and the appeal with Tarkov, especially for someone like me, is that you're going in and the risk of dying is great. Let's compare to, say, something like Call of Duty DMZ. When you die in DMZ, it's meaningless. You get the experience, and then you get the gun straight back, and you're running straight back in, and there's no value to loot whatsoever. The value in Tarkov is getting that loot, be it a gun or a super rare item that you can sell, and then extracting with it. That's your dopamine hit right there, is successfully extracting. From there, then you can build up a hideout that's your own personal one, which gives you soft skill increases your stamina, your hunger and hydration rates. And that's one of the other things as well. It's very like realistic in terms of immersion. There's a big debate on immersion versus realism, but it has a ballistic system with like bullet drop off. You've got to make sure your sights are zeroed at 100, 200 meters, depending on how far out enemies are. When you're in the raids, you will have to keep your hydration and hunger up, much like in like other survival games like Rust.
You can't just run around all the time because you got limited stamina and all that kind of stuff. And audio is a big part of the game too.
Audio is huge, and it's been hit and miss for a long time now.
So the idea is that it's more or less a hyper realistic, as realistic as you can get while still sitting at your PC and playing a game. Right? Right,
exactly.
The idea is that the audio is good, the gunplay is good. You really need to make sure that you are in it. It's not a casual game by any means. This is a hardcore experience.
Not a game you can listen to a podcast to. Definitely not one of those.
Like the major risk is, so let's say with Warzone, because everyone knows Call of Duty, you shoot someone in the face 3 times with an automatic rifle, and their body armor shields are still going down. If you get shot in the face in Tarkov, you're dead. That's you. So you gotta move right. That's one of the biggest things.
Right. So the game is released. It's a pre-release. Initially,
oh my god, it's been in pre-launch longer than Super Mario Brothers has been in post-launch. For Christ's sake, like. It's been a long time, but it's like kind of the OG of this genre, and now the genre is starting to take off, right? Because you have other games that have come out in Call of Duty copying the kind of formula a little bit, and games like Hunt Showdown and Marauders and stuff like that have come along since then that have taken elements of Tarkov and mixed them with different settings and whatever. I said a long time ago, I think extraction shooter is probably the next big thing that's going to happen in shooters for sure.
Yeah.
So
go on, Chris.
Go ahead, Naz.
I lost my train of thought. It's all right.
So you have this initial release, and when a game is first announced, there's the first adopters who go in. They want to see the game be successful. They go in and they want to support the game. They're in on the ground floor and they want to feel like they're a part of something. So initially, when they first came out, they had, correct me if I'm wrong, they had an Edge of Darkness edition, and that was $150 to be a part of that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the Edge of Darkness edition, EOD, as everyone knows it in the community, was the 151. It was supposed to be a limited edition in 2018. So buy it now before it's gone, because all the goodies that you get with it will be gone very soon. And I believe they only just removed it in January this year, so nearly 6 years. This limited edition has been out. Yeah. To give you an idea as well, so what you got with the edition is you got a fully upgraded stash space. So one of the biggest things in the game is getting out and extracting with the loot extraction shooter. The more space you have, the more loot you're going to be able to fit, the more money you're going to make, the more successful your next run's going to be, because you can buy better gear, better bullets. So it was kind of like pay to win in that aspect. A lot of people like try to argue, well, you won't live in the raid, so it's more pay for convenience, but you get a bigger stash space and then therefore a bigger starting amount of gear at the beginning of every wipe, because that was one thing I forgot to mention. Every 6 months or so, they get a large update, more content added, and the game wipes where you just start back down to 0.
Now they're wiping this even with this game being in early access. They're going through and they're wiping it. Like, we're looking at a game that's been in early access for 7 years now. What is the justification behind that at this point?
Small indie dev, please understand. Like that's like,
yeah. And you're seeing this more and more, man. You're seeing it with newer games that are coming out. And I just mentioned Marauders. That's been out for a few years now, and it's still very much in pre-alpha, even, I think, something like that. Like, I don't even know if they're at alpha, but like, you're seeing that more and more. There was a new game that's kind of like an Old West extraction shooter, Twisted Path to Renown. Also, like, isn't Tarkov Ukrainian? Is it? Am I Russian? Okay. Twisted Path to Renown is Ukrainian. You know, these are smaller studios. These are not like established AAA guys, so they kind of have that plausible deniability of not that many people working on the game, so, you know, bear with us. And here's the thing: Tarkov blew up so much that it's like, is there much of an incentive to jump right to release? Not really.
Yeah. One of the bigger deals with Tarkov as well, it blew up in about 2020. I think mainly through Twitch streamers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's when I started watching a YouTuber called General Sam.
I mean, that makes sense, because that's, you know, COVID was happening. There's things, you know, you can't go out. You're not allowed to go outside. So, dear God, you know, if you want to shoot somebody, you got to do it inside. Might
as well invest my hundreds of hours into dying on Tarkov. But like, one of the main things with development that was slowing them down at the moment, and still is at the beginning, they were very, very small team. They were a very small team, and it was like they didn't know what they were doing on the Unity engine. It's being run on Unity.
Yeah.
And now they've got a lot more developers. They kind of want to do an update with the newest Unity engine, but they've got so much spaghetti code. They don't know. They're like, if we move one thing, 20 other things could break. That's like one of the biggest hurdles for them right now.
Okay, so we'll take a step back here, and you have this initial Edge of Darkness, or EOD, and from what I understand, one of the things that was promised was, if you buy this original Edge of Darkness, first thing was, you would have no more, all downloadable content would be included moving ahead from now until forever, or now until the game is released. What was the idea behind that? Like, everything we add now is going to be included. You're just paying for it in advance.
Yeah, you're an early adopter. With this $150 pound euro edition, you will gain access to, for free, all future DLCs. So that was the promise. And they released a DLC called Arena in December last year.
Yeah, it was a big
Arena.
That was more like I don't want to call it deathmatch, but it was, you know, it was more along those lines.
Yeah, it's like once you open up the launcher, you've got Escape from Tarkov, and then you've got Arena. You play Arena, and it's a completely separate mode where you're doing 5v5s. Yeah. And if the game lasts a little too long, there's a capture the flag mode in the center. It didn't do too well. It didn't go well. I think it's mainly because other games do it better, like arena shooters.
I think that sounds like such a departure from what makes the game.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't get that hype of like, I just extracted with like a lead X. A lead X is like one of the most expensive and valuable and rare items in the game. Like you don't get that high. So people played it for a bit. The progression is such a slog. It would take you like 20 hours just to get to the next like level. So there's like multiple kits where you start off with complete shitter kits, which is like crappy shotguns, things like that. Then you unlock maybe a rifle that's semi-automatic, and then you got to grind for another 20 hours for a fully automatic rifle. People were like, we're not doing this. We'll just go back to the game we know.
Okay. So the Edge of Darkness is released. Then the Arena is released. And now they're offering a new, not DLC, but a new, what is the promise?
It's a new edition. So after Arena released, they instantly dropped Edge of Darkness edition, which was the one that promised all future DLCs for free. They dropped it straight away because a lot of people are saying that finances are probably not great. And the fact they had to give out so many free copies of something they worked on for no cost for the consumer, they didn't like it. So they just dropped it. They took it away straight away. And now they're releasing a new edition, which doesn't promise future DLCs, but has a persistent co-op mode. So the idea is you and your buddy, who's also forked up $250, team up and play up against the AI instead of other players. And then it's Escape from Tarkov, PvE only, technically offline, with a friend or something like that. And then the stash and the progression is on a completely separate version for you.
Okay.
There's an online and an offline version, essentially, which is a lot of people are considering, well, outright, they're saying that's DLC.
Right.
You promised us that.
Do you download it?
Yeah.
Is it content?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
like
You have to download all that from the launcher, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Okay, so they're offering this for $250 now, and some people are saying this is quote unquote pay to win, and it's disrespectful to the player base. The amount of players that are playing this on a month-to-month basis, I'm just looking at activeplayer.io. There's 2.3 million players of this game right now.
It's getting bigger and bigger. Like I think it was Razor that said extraction shooters are becoming the next big thing over battle royales, and Tarkov is one of the first ones to do it, and they're the first ones to do it so well.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the one that really blew. I mean, for perspective, I think the next biggest Hunt Showdown. It's like their highest concurrent player count was like one event ago or something, and it was something like 25,000 or something. Like it was nowhere near this. So Tarkov is exploded because it's great. It's high risk. You venture a lot and you potentially lose a lot, but you can potentially gain a lot. High risk, high reward, and so it's fantastic for streaming because you never know when you're gonna win it all. You never know. It's a really, really good game to stream.
Yeah. So people have been upset at obviously the cost of it. What are your thoughts on the whole like pay to win aspect of this? It's like, hey, for $250, are we past the point of pay for convenience? Have we now entered into the idea of like a pay to win aspect of this?
For sure. So some of the items that give you benefits with this is not only do you get extra gear on top of so you would have something like EOD starting gear, which is extra than the standard edition. So you're going to get extra than EOD. But you also have two items which really made people do a double take, which was one that allows, if you have like a reputation with a certain in-game trader, someone you buy items off, you do quests for them, you get reputation. At a certain threshold of reputation, AI will not aggro you. They won't shoot at you over 60 meters. So you can run around carelessly without the AI aggroing you, and then you can just wait for the AI known as scavs to shoot at someone else, and then be like, oh, there's a guy over there. Oh, there's a guy over there. Oh,
yeah, they're giving their position away because again, like I said, audio huge thing. You're listening for audio cues from the other players. This is a common element in a lot of extraction shooters, by the way.
Yeah, and then the second one is like some kind of flare, from what we understand, where you pop it, and then it just notifies everyone in your friends list, like, "Hey, this guy needs a hand. Go help him out," and you can join mid raid, which is something that hasn't been done before. So you could basically, if you're in a bit of a tight pinch, you can call your like, I don't know, like level 60 Giga Chad friend to come in and just fucking destroy someone, and then be like, peace, and then just you win, like pay to win.
So
a lot.
So then there's been blowback here, and major blowback from within the community. Some of the top streamers who are into this, they've really kind of rejected this idea, and to mid court they're saying nah. And even on X, they put an update on the current situation, and they're getting community noted by their own community here, talking about the idea of what DLC is, and so it's interesting to see the blowback on this, so much so that the CEO of the company itself came out and had a statement over on Reddit. Have you seen this statement?
Most of it, yeah, I've read through most of it. I wouldn't have it memorized off the top of the dome, but that's
right.
Well, he said, and I'll read this off. Says, let me continue my feedback on the current situation. First of all, I would like to say that I'm very sorry that fans and the game community in general are experiencing these feelings. Unfortunately, I'm sorry
you feel that
what is that statement even? Like, what? I'm very sorry your asshole is sore. Like, what? Yeah. Really?
Right. And I think that's been the big blowback on this, at least that I've seen so far. And has that generally been the feeling of like, it's not a real apology when you start off by saying, I'm sorry that you feel this way?
Yeah. Like, people are not happy. So like you said, a lot of streamers, the big two, Pestly and Landmark, they're the biggest Tarkov streamers right now. And they have both said, do not buy this. We're not buying this, which is amazing. Like, but there are a couple who have like maybe 1,000 to 5,000 viewers who are like, well, guys, it's my job, so I have to. they're like, the shilling. That's the best way I can say it.
They do the partner thing, right, on Tarkov too?
Yeah. They're bending the knee.
Oh, okay. So the streamers who are buying it, they are partners with the game, and they're the ones who are saying we should. They're not saying you should pick it up. They're saying I'm going to pick it up.
Yeah, and they'll advertise it, like not advertise it, but they'll show off all the stuff that you're gonna get. And one of the biggest things, right, is you get exclusive access with interviews with Nikita, the CEO. You get invited out to Las Vegas and during events for, like, let's say the arena mode. Streamers were getting invited to go out, play the game early, get interviews, get clips, and then go on a shooting range all together and have a jolly. Like, that's huge for views. And that's something you want, access media, which is why so many streamers don't want to rock the boat too much.
This goes back to, we've talked about this consistently, the access media aspect of all this. Whether it's game journalist or whether you're streaming on YouTube, whether it's a specific game, at the end of the day, these game companies, they can hang that over your head and say, well, we'd really love for you to come out if you did this, or, we're not a big fan of the way you did this. So, you may want to rethink that if you like to be invited back to this right here. Okay, so this game has been in early release for 7 years, despite charging, I go back to the 2.5 million people playing this game in the last 30 days. Are those all paid users? This is a paid video game that you, how much is the game?
And it's not it should be said too, this is an independent launcher too. It's not through Steam. It's not through whatever. You're paying the company directly. That's not going to a third party like GOG or Steam. That's all them.
They're not taking 30%, right? Yeah.
No,
Steam isn't taking
wow. So it's huge. Like, it's starting off right now. The prices are $51 for the base game. And then again, it goes all the way up to $250 now, which some people are I'd say probably a few tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands may still be buying if there's millions of people playing this. So they're going to make some money, which is annoying. Yeah,
So
it's kind of down to the revenue model too of it, like, even though like he said and like I've said, I do think extraction shooters are kind of the next thing after battle royale. You know, they kind of haven't cracked what the most viable revenue model is. And with some of these companies being smaller, it's like they have to find a way to pay the light bill, right? And different extraction shooters, it's interesting to see how they handle it. Some of them do the pre-release for a while, will sell copies, that'll raise some revenue in the meantime. Other companies just sell a lot of cosmetics to avoid the pay-to-win thing altogether. It's, I don't know, what do you think is informing, like, what has Tarkov's logic up until this point as far as actually raising money off of this kind of model been? Like, by your reckoning, what has it been? More like Hunt, where it's, hey, here's a cool gun skin, here's a cool legendary skin, but it doesn't affect the actual gameplay? Or has it been more so, hey, buy an extremely expensive version of the game and get some actual concrete advantages?
Well, it's interesting you said that, right, Razor? Because obviously one of the biggest perks was like no microtransactions. For the longest time, like Nikita, the CEO, promised on one of the Reddit AMAs years ago, yeah, we don't see the need for microtransactions. And then after Arena dropped, they started doing microtransactions, extra stash space, and cosmetics only. So nothing, not pay to win yet, guys. And then this version has come out, and now people are like, what is going on in the financials over there? You're getting 100% of the revenue, millions of people are playing. Where's the money going? And this question has started being asked by content creators on the game for a while now. They're like, where's the money going? Because we're not seeing, like, when it comes to development, like I said, there's the spaghetti code, and it's just the optimization is so bad. You've got to have like 36 gigabyte RAM, 2070 RTX 2070 minimum, and then some really high powered CPU to run just some of the maps that have come out recent. So every wipe, not every wipe, but a couple wipes, they'll release a new map. And one of the maps, Streets of Tarkov, is for the first few months, it was unplayable for everyone, despite having like a NASA rig. And eventually they released a low texture quality option. So you click that, and now you can run it. Like, everything's low res, and it's still like the servers are bad. There's craziness when it comes to like packet loss, and
you have to also point out, like, it's important not to have play to win in these kinds of games specifically because of the cheating element too. Because if you can farm something, then you're going to get this secondary economy where people are hacking so they can get resources, so they can turn around and sell resources. Every game has this, right? MMOs have it out the yin yang. But in a game like this, like, it becomes a real problem. And Tarkov has struggled with that.
It really has. I've got 4,000 hours in the game, right? For what it is, I fucking love it, right? But
yeah,
and despite all the flaws, what they have is amazing. And then when I'm like trying to do something like, oh, I need to go kill a boss on a map, killer, I want to kill him 50 times. You've got to spawn in, run around, look for him. And because there's no guarantee he spawned. So and then you're like, oh, he's not here, leave, restart, run in, run around, leave, restart. And then you get him and you're like, yes, he's in. You're in a fight, and then some guy just flies past playing like the Chinese, and he just boop, 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 and kills all of us. And we're like, oh, it ruins the game completely.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the next step here? There's obviously been blowback in this, from the community, and the CEOs over here saying like, well, we're sorry you're upset. Sorry. So what's the next step? How does this get solved? Does this get resolved? Is the community asking, where's the money going? What makes people happy from this? Or is there a way to resolve this at all?
I don't think so. Well, for me personally, it's a no. I've some people in the chat were saying stop playing. I have. I'm looking towards other games now. I'm playing Manor Lords. I'm playing hopefully this Grey Zone Warfare, one of the new competitors that's released today, but it's had some bad reviews. They might have pushed it out of the door to capitalize on this whole debacle. some people were saying just make the co-op mode for the EOD edition, guys, the DLC, because it was grounds for a class action lawsuit. This is why they did that, and this is the only reason why I think they did that. A lot of these streamers are saying they finally listened to us, guys. The community's won. I was like, no. People on Reddit were actually like actively organizing for a class action lawsuit in the EU and the UK. This is a big no-no legally, and they even, despite being a Russian company, they're based in London, so they could just get destroyed. Right. So that's one of the only reasons why I think they walk back on this when it comes to the co-op. But what they'll do, the problem is they've kind of like lifted the mask. There's been revelation on what they really think of us, and it's just like stupid pay pigs that'll buy anything.
Right.
And I don't want to support that anymore. So I'm moving on to greener pastures. And even if they fixed every single thing, refunded the Unheard of edition, that's this new $250 one. If they refunded the Unheard of one, removed all the benefits, brought EOD back or something like that, and everything was back to normal, it's like, what are they going to do in the future? Who knows what they could do in the future? There's no trust in the company anymore.
So there it is right there. So the player base, the hardcore player base has lost trust in the game developers. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I mean, where is Tarkov in 6 months from now? Are they still with 2.5 million players? Or is this slowly trickle down because streamers will no longer be streaming this game, and all of a sudden their free promotion is gone? Is this something that
I think they're gonna really struggle? 6 months, they might still have a player base. 5 years, even 3 years, I don't know. Even though this was supposed to be really long term, because they still haven't even released yet. That's one of the big major things, is they haven't even released a game, and it's a full game.
Do you think that if their player base falls off, like I could see this happening, you think if their player base falls off as a result of this, and I've heard so much, I watch a lot of Tarkov streamers and extraction shooter streamers and whatever, do you think they would rush out to have a release version to get people back?
He's Russian now. He's rushing now. He is in an interview that came out recently. Again, some of the wording of that pissed a lot of people off. He is definitely trying to get that 1.0 out as soon as possible, where you have a story where you actually get to finally escape from Tarkov. But will it be too quick? Will it be pushed out of the door, kind of like this Grey Zone Warfare game that looks like to be the case? I don't know, but like I said, streamers are the big streamers have moved on to DayZ. They've moved on to Rust, Rainbow Six Siege, and then Grey Zone Warfare, and even some of them are doing what I'm doing, which is that was it. One of them, Clean, I think his name was, he downloaded a separate launcher and is now playing single player Tarkov for free, which is very frowned upon by BSG. They're like, it's against TOS. Right. Don't you do it.
Well, okay. Why and how? What is it? Why is that?
It circumvents their launcher.
It circumvents their launcher. And you are playing technically an unofficial version of the game, which is just like a heavily modded. It's kind of like their co-op mode, but on a different launcher and for free. They're not going to like that.
Okay. So, but how do you play a game that's single player that's built around a multiplayer experience?
So I've actually tried it out since this whole controversy. I downloaded it, tried it out, and I installed some realism mods and AI mods, and I was thoroughly impressed. So the idea is that the PMCs are now controlled by AI. PMCs are players, like paramilitary contractor players, and their AI is really impressive, man. Like people will be watching the other guy who's playing single player Tarkov and being like, why isn't the AI like that in the base game? Why is it so good by modders but not by the official developers? It's really good. Like, it's shocking how they haven't fixed a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and for the record, the AI will get you plenty dead in that game.
So you mentioned kind of the pushback on this, and there have been. I just went over to Twitch to kind of take a look at the top games. You mentioned Gray Zone is like a new competitor that's being released, and it's fairly new. But when you look at the top games on Twitch right now, that Gray Zone is in the top 5 with 136,000 viewers.
Wow.
And so people are certainly intrigued by this.
Yeah.
And at one point, Tarkov, that was the #1 game on Twitch for a good while. I remember seeing there was definitely a gravy train associated with it. And right now you have to scroll down pretty far to find Tarkov down here with 10,000 people watching it. So that's
huge.
Is that, where does that rank usually? Is it considerably higher?
Well, 30 to 40,000 viewers usually on a given day. On a wipe, it'll hit like 100,000, 200,000, because everybody's brand new, fresh accounts running it, and people want to watch that. Right. And then when people kind of like sink into, usual, like, oh, I'm just running with the best gear and killing everyone, people kind of just tend to trickle down. But usually it's about 30,000, 40,000 players. So the fact that it's gone down to 10, I've never seen it that low. Ooh.
Wow. Okay. Interesting for sure. Well, we appreciate your insight on this, Naz, man. This is great. Obviously, both you and Razor are passionate and knowledgeable about this, and I think that's really great. You have anything before we close on Tarkov?
Want to give us a quick bliet?
Bliet. Some of them scab voice lines. We love it. That's about it then. Yeah, you're kind of up to date there. It's just the financials. We don't think they're doing well, too hot at all. We see them with all flashy cars and stuff. We think they've just been squandering the money on marketing for Arena and themselves. Now we think they're desperate to get editions that are way too overpriced out the door, so they can make a quick buck, so they can release 1.0 and then just be done with it. That's my thoughts. And the players aren't happy.
Well, it does not look like they're in a very good situation right now. It does not look like it at all.